Okay, now I'm going to go into the red, into this color here. I'm going to tap the red here with my brush, just a tiny bit. I know you don't see it, but just want to pick up and start darkening this yellow here. Just a little bit until I get it to the right tone. Okay, because I will add more to get it darker. Okay, so now I'm going to just certain areas where the dark tone is, like where the dark shadow is, I'm going to add this color. And the reason why is because it's going to indicate to me when I'm adding my light, when I'm adding my other reds, that there's shadow there. It's just giving me information for the future when I'm painting. Okay, this whole kind of belly area is dark. I'm wondering there's gum there probably still. And then it has a puffed up chest. This area here. Wings going that way. And just a tiny bit there. Now the tail is mostly in shadows. But it does have some really good highlights in certain, just on the tips of the wings on that side. But it's going to be a darker red. And I'm going to use that same color, watered down, just for the beak. I'm just going to color that beak area. Let that dry. Okay, I'm gonna let this little bird dry, and I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna add some other reds. But I'm gonna check out to make sure that's not gum in there. I'm gonna take an eraser to it and rub that. Add this red, but I want it really watered down. I'm gonna remove what I have in the center, my cloth, and add the red in here. Because my bird is gonna mainly be this color. More pigment. There we go. I'm going to do a little test here. See? It's a beautiful, beautiful red. Okay, so now I'm just going to layer that color on top of these other colors. Going in that same direction that I was doing before. Now I'm going to add that darker red in here, the tail. Let that completely dry. And then get back to it. Okay, I'm gonna go back into my red. Now I'm gonna start adding more stronger pigments with a smaller brush. So I'm using a wet brush on paper, dry paper technique. I'm gonna start adding his legs in here. Start creating. Now because that light is in highlight, it needs to be more on the orange side, so I'm just gonna go in. There we go. Yellow in between these two colors. Wing. Start doing little strokes to indicate his feathers. I don't know if you can see me mixing the two colors together. This part is quite bright. his forehead. Now, if you can see the size of the brush, remember I was talking about that fine hair brush that I have, which is over here. This is just a little thicker than that, right? So it's good to do larger detailed small area work. I don't know how to explain it, but just remember I was talking about we're doing from large colors going smaller, 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 smaller. And then it kind of comes down this way on this side. Little strokes till here. And these strokes here on his chest. Because they're really bright because of the sunlight. Then he has a few hairs here, which I'm just going to indicate with this. And as I'm putting this orange yellow on top, you can see that red starting to be more dramatic, right? So I'm going to do the same thing on the, hold on, I need to get a thinner, on the outer side of his feathers of his tail, just to bring that brightness, because I know they're very, very thin, but I want to have that base there first. Okay, we're gonna let that dry. Now we're gonna go into the deeper red. We're gonna do orange and red together, right? So we can get that high chroma. Chroma means high pigment of color. So I'm just putting the two together, these two, red and orange. And I'm gonna do a little test. See how the difference between the two is? You know, because the Cardinal's not completely red. It's different colors, different hues of red, different tones of red, yellow and orange. The two colors mixed together. So in that same area, there's some dark lights because the feather goes around the bird. Remember I did that highlight here? He has that right there, those feathers coming down. So this area here is going to be all dark. So I'm just going to start adding the high chroma of red, orange in this area. And I'm doing little strokes to create the volume of his belly. And then with that same color, to indicate between the head and the body, I'm going to add that color. And the reason why is because in the photo, the head comes down and then the belly pops out. So that's why it goes from light to dark around the eyes, right? Then it goes light again, then it goes dark to indicate the twisting of the feathers. Then it goes light again, then it goes dark. So if you start thinking of your whatever you're painting into shapes, it's going to be much more easier to achieve what you want to achieve. I'm going to add that same color into the tail. And it's going to be in the midtones right here. Sorry, that's my dog. She's choking on something. Well, not anymore. Okay, now this tail is going to be completely dark like the wing on this side. We're going to get that to it. Now the beak, I need the smaller hairbrush one. Get that same color, pick that up, and put it down here on the beak. Or just added some water to let it soak in. Okay, so I'm going to dry this and I'm going to come back to it. Okay, so I'm going into my cadmium yellow. I'm going to see a little test, and I want to add some yellow in here. And the reason why is because he has his kind of big areas in yellow. Just want to emphasize that yellow. It's going to mix with the other color at the bottom because it's going to turn orange. So I'm going to do that here as well, and in his cheek, and in his wing and leg. Just kind of mix those together as it's drying. He does have a line of yellow going down his tail here before the shade comes, but I will do that with the other brush. Okay, so I'm gonna let that dry. Just do a little bit of yellow in here. I want to emphasize that orange, so I'm gonna mix it with that. There we go. Let that dry, and then we're gonna start the dark tones. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to start coloring those dark tones. I'm going to use the natural brown umber, this one right here, and I'm going to add the cerulean blue. And we're going to make that muddy color. Remember, we made that muddy color in class? So there we go. And water it down. So it's going to indicate, see there you go. See how light that is? You want it light because you just want to go light to where the dark areas are. So this whole section here, his belly, is in dark. It goes up into that area like a V. And then his leg. And then there's spots in his feathers in certain areas where there's just a slight of dark. That's underneath the feathers. The back of his head goes down, and it kind of becomes invisible there. Blends in the background. The bottom of his feathers up here, and his wing. This side, it's going to be a darker red. So I'm just going to darkening it just to get. So when I draw on pen, I'll indicate it. Now his tail, remember I said it's going to be all dark? This is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go straight down and darken these tones. Leaving that light, light, light highlight of yellow-orange on the outside. I'm going to go back in here again to indicate that leg. Do you see I'm going back in, and do you see how it's darkening it? Okay. A little bit in this section. A little bit in that section. So right now, what we're doing, I'm just going to color this whole black section here. So I have it blocked in. I'm going to let that dry. I'm going to go back into it. Oh, let me see this leg. No, that's fine. Let that dry, go back into it, and we're going to work on the beak and on the rest of his belly. Okay, just went to go make a tea, and I started looking at this. This part right here was really bright, so I just toned it down with a layer of this color, just to tone down that color so the bird, so it's not competing with each other. Okay, so now I'm gonna take my, what I was thinking is taking this brush, which is not the small one. I wanna go back into this orange color and start building this section here with the dark tone. Okay, so I'm gonna wet my brush, go back into that orange. So I'm gonna do orange red, and just a touch of the brown tone. Do you see that, how it just darkened it a little bit. There we go. Just gonna start building up his belly. And forming his belly shape. I go down to here to indicate his feathers. Gonna get that same color and start doing it in these little areas here where I went with a darker tone. Indicate his feathers. Around his head. Because he's not dark, he's dark red. So I'm just trying to there we go. Indicate his feathers. You see how these two colors are mixing together and it's creating kind of a violet tone? I'm gonna do that same thing. Get some red and orange, mix it here. Dip it in that mud brown right here and start working on the tail. So his tail is slightly divided into two. One side is completely darker than the other side. Because it's in shadow, it's in a V formation. I'm just gonna put that whole section in shadow. A little darker. We leave it at that because there is a red highlight along that feather there. Now the other side is a little lighter. I'm gonna wait till that dries and then I'm gonna go back to it. I'm gonna work on his head. Gonna add a little bit of shadows around where the black is gonna be. So I'm gonna start building that up. So there isn't a huge, there is a contrast, but not that much of a contrast. I will go in with the red, orange afterwards. It does have that feathers there. Going in with that yellow, and I'm gonna pop that in those areas where he's much yellow. And I'm going in with pure pigment this time. Section right there. A little bit going down this way and on this side as well. So I'm gonna let that dry and I'm gonna come back to it. Okay, so I'm gonna get that red again here. Now this section is dry. I'm gonna go back in with the orange and start building up a little bit more. Just doing very light lines just to indicate the feathers. Okay. Go. Where the dark areas are. Because I'm brightening them up, mixing it with the other color from below. Okay, I'm gonna go in with this brown, but really watered down. This color, you know that muddy brown that I made? That one. Just slightly go over this section here. Now, that color, I'm just gonna go in with the cerulean blue and add a little pop, a hint of tone to indicate the wing there. I'm going again to the dark areas, and I'm doing brush strokes this time. Need a little bit more cerulean blue. There we go. So I'm building him up. Let that dry and I'll be right back. Okay. Go. You see them just keep on adding little strokes into the bird's belly. And if you look at my strokes, it's more like creating the curves of his body. As I'm getting deeper in here, they get smaller, and as the feathers go up this way, they get larger. Okay, I'm going into my red. I'm just gonna add some of that crimson in certain areas, that crimson red, bright, in the darker areas to kind of blend them out. Okay, more of that crimson to the head area. He's kind of very crimsony on his cheek here. And there we go. Now I'm going to go back into that mud color that I did before, if you guys remember, which is the this color and this color mixed together very lightly. Go into the head just to indicate the shadow there. Okay, now I'm going to do the tail. I'm going to go back into that mud color, the shade color, and I'm going to emphasize that tail, the darkness of that tail. It's a dark burgundy brown color. And he has some going up this way as well, because it's the end of the feathers. So I'm going to add that there. I'm going to remove over here because it's actually quite white on that side. There we go. There we go. Now I'm going to start layering his black face in here. I'm going to use that mud color and a little bit of cerulean, ultramarine blue. Mix it in here, darken it up even more. If you have black watercolor, you can use it. If you have black ink, you can use it, but I'm just gonna mix my own. This color. Add some yellow, some orange, some red. Add some green. Take a look at what it looks like. Yeah, that's a good gray. Okay, so I'm gonna try to get less pigment on my brush. I just wanna dab it into place. There we go. And I'm gonna wait that to dry. I'm gonna go back, add more. Because within black, there's gonna be some highlighted areas. And as I'm mixing the color into the other color, you see it starting to darken, create a crease. Gonna remove that from that side because he has a cheek coming out this way. I'm gonna do that part again. Little birdie cheek. There we go. I'm going to use this color here, that same color that I used for the face. I'm going to start putting it into his wing area here. Start shaping up that wing. I don't know if you see there's a little bit of a white line crest right here. You want to keep that going all the way up. And in this one, that white line on this side is going to be toned down because I'm going to go really ham on the darkness there. Ham means like overload. And I'm going to do the same thing on the tail once it dries. So I'm going to add some dark lights. I need a thinner brush. So I need my hairbrush. I'm going to do that in this section here. Just want to line myself where his feathers are. Some of them pop out. Some of them are small. So I'm going to get my clean brush here and pick up some of that. There we go. Because it goes into like a triangle. There we go. Now I'm going to start working on the beak, and I'll need my small brush for that one. Go in with the yellow. Yellow at the front, go up. There's a bit of white there, so I'm going to leave that there for later. Comes down, goes black there. It's a little smile. I'm going to go in with the orange for the bottom beak. I'm going to trace it out. That orange layer, because I am working in such a small area, I have to really work with a smaller brush. Go here to get that strong beak. Okay. And I'm going to go in with that dark color I made, dark gray. Just a little bit to outline his beak, the shadow part. You may not see what I'm doing, but I'm doing the exact same thing what I did on the body onto the beak. Oop, that's too much. Pick that up, brush. Now I'm going into the red with the small brush, and I'm going to emphasize that red line I was talking about that he has on his tail here. And I'm leaving a very fine line. So you can see that orange on the top. He has it on this side as well, but it's more on the yellow tones. So I'm going to go in with the red to indicate where my highlight is going to be. Then I'm going in with the mud color, the darker color, just to tone that down a little bit. water and wash it out. There we go. Then going in again with the red and the dark tone. So I'm going to show you here, put it right here. So dipped it in the dark, dipped it in the red, and then going up this way, because that feather's not completely in highlight. There is a mid-tone, which means it's going to be lighter than this, darker than that, going up the tail. Do the same here. Go into a point. Let that dry, and then I'm gonna work, well, actually it's dry now, I can work on it now. Go into the red again, red orange. And I'm gonna add that dark red, just, I bet you anywhere, anything, there's gum there. See if I can erase that. Yeah, there's gum there. Okay. Get the orange, go put it here. Get that red orange and put it right beside it. Going down. Because the layer of the tail, right? Because when it opens up, it's like that, right? So when it's folded in, right? It's folded in like that, but you see it a different way. You see it folded in like this. So you see just the slight sides of the feather. And that's what I'm trying to indicate with these dark points here. And at the same time, creating its shadows. Just going in with that dark one, just to create the line. There we go. Oh. There we go. Going up this way. And again, if your paint wants to do something else that you can't control, just let it do it. There we go. Just went back into this wing and added some red. And going up. Now that the face is still wet. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna go back into that dark gray mud color I created. Mix that up. So in this one, I added ultramarine blue, a little bit of every single color. Like I added this color, this color, this color, this color, this color, this color, and that color to create this color, right? I'm gonna go in, start adding more. Start creating the eye. Add more pigment where I need it. You will see that it will start getting darker and darker and darker. Like that pumpkin I made, I added this tone to the darkness here. And I'm just dabbing my brush around because it's such a small area. Now, we'll go back into that beak, get some orange, put it in that one area where it had the darkness. The mud color, I call it the mud color, but it's black, right? Add some red to it, and I'm gonna add the shade to the beak here. That's the mouth. And I'm gonna get some more red, add Add it to that same color. I want more. There we go. And I'm going to start building up the bottom here. Because the beak is an orange tone. Okay, I'm going to start working on the feet. I'm going to get this brush. I had to take a break to get that mucky gray water. Do a very light on the little paws because he does have black feet. Go there. And I'm gonna make them thinner, right? So as that dries, I'm gonna start working on the eyeball. So it's a black eyeball, but he has a round rim to him, like round rim to the eyeball. It's not white, it's gray, but I'm gonna start, gonna try to leave as much white as I can there, and then I'm gonna do the pen and ink. Now I'm going to look at the tail. Now I need to add some of that red gray to this side of the tail to darken that up. I'm going in here, going to add the lines to indicate the feathers of the different tails. I know it's a little large, but going back into that top wing, which is this one right here that's in darkness. I'm gonna add a little more dark tone to it, just a tiny bit. It's closer to the body. Remove some of that as well. There we go. There is a little bit of a highlight. So by removing the paint, I could add that highlight. Now I'm going to go into my red pigment. This one right here. But I'm going to need I'm going to need more red pigment. I'm going to use my finer brush and add some red details to certain feathers on his body and his tail, if his tail is dried. Okay. So this one red, because you see the side of the feather, then it's a little on the red side here, because that's how the tail is glowing. Then a red out in this section here, down. There we go. And it's much darker at the top, so I'm going to tone that down afterwards. Do the outside very lightly. Go down. So again, this part that I'm doing right now is almost like when you have pencil crayons. It's almost the same idea. Some red highlights, low highlights. Indicate the leg. Okay. See, with the thin little hairbrush, I'm just painting some lines. Going into that dark area to indicate the feathers. To the head again. Sorry about that. And I'm gonna work on his little crest. Could put some red on those dark lights there. Yes, some coming in. So as I was working on it, I was just adding the darker reds. So you can see now it dried. Right, I'm going to add some, just a little bit around the eye. Gonna darken that even more. Way too much, so I'm going to pick that up, my brush. There we go. Some darkness red in here. My dark hue. There we go. Let that dry. Now we're going to finish this beak that I started before. Going back to my orange yellows here, and I'm going to activate this because it's dried. I'm going to activate that yellow. I'm going to add that there. I want him to be a happy bird, so I'm going to highlight there. Some water. With my other clean brush, pick some of that up. Oops. There we go. Happy bird. I'm going to darken his lower jaw a little bit. I'm going to keep that line there. There we go. Okay, going back to the legs. Darkening that section of the leg, and he has kind of like little ringlets around his feet, and he has one foot coming this way, one foot coming this way, and then there's another one that's in total shade on this side here. Put that there because bird puts his claws on a branch, kind of goes around in a circle. And if you see how I'm doing it, I did one wash, then I'm adding the dark onto the dark side. And that one is so tiny you can't hardly see it. Over here, I'm gonna let that dry. Now I'm gonna go back into the tail. I'm gonna define this tail bit at the end. Just testing to see if that's still wet. There we go. Go up that way. It's too thick. Take some of that off. And there we go. Now I got to darken this section up here like I said I was going to do. Because that is in shade. I just saw there's a couple of feathers there. They're popping down. And because I went over too much on that side, I'm gonna just take that out. And because there's a couple of feathers popping below the branch that are bright, I'm gonna just clean that up. There we go, let that dry. I'm gonna get back to it. Now I'm gonna go back to the beak. Is that dry? Yeah. I'm going to start defining the beak, around the beak. I'm going to get that dark tone again. And I'm going to do the little V. It's in this section here. It's really hard to paint with this here, so I'm going to move it up there. And over here has a happy face. And there's a connection there to indicate his mouth.